Jay, how are you reading what happened at the summit?
If anything, I think it's a little more dispiriting, even than that. I mean, we have, despite a lot of hard work and good efforts and some measurable achievements, both in the six-party agreement and in the framework, basically the history of our negotiation with North Korea since the development of their nuclear program began has basically been one of largely failure. This tiny, hermetically sealed Stalinist family business now has nuclear weapons. They have a delivery system. The weapon that they tested last November is about 15 times the power of the bomb that landed in Hiroshima. And we've basically watched this happen. And although we've had a lot of failures, this failure, I think, is actually particularly problematic because it came after what I thought was some real promise. I thought Trump, perhaps because of the kind of madman, policy, had actually galvanized some international consensus around sanctions. The sanctions looked like they were starting to really work. Kim Jong-un was fearful for his personal security. And yet we had been holding out some nice carrots. The Olympics was really important to him. The summit was a big deal for him. And I think we came into it in a position to actually use that power to extract some concessions or simply say, sorry, you screwed up, we're done, and we're back to the maximum pressure and the sanctions regime. And instead, we completely capitulated. If you look at this declaration of principles, the statement about nuclear weapons is complete denuclearization of the peninsula. That's code word for getting the United States out of South Korea, because South Korea doesn't have nukes. So and frankly, they would see it, I think, as kind of an arms control reduction. If we reduced our nuclear weapons in South Korea to, say, 50 or 60, then they would feel, okay, we can only have 50 or 60, which is probably a little more than they have now. So it's completely asymmetrical. And I think that, Sean is right. We basically have given him what he wants. He now has the nuclear capability. Obviously, it can be improved, and that's fortunate for us. That means we still have time to go back to a real regime of sanctions. I would say that if Secretary Pompeo can't, within relatively short order, 3 to 6 months, actually get some progress, meaning a declaration of what their weapons are, some process to allow international inspectors to come in, we should go back to a much harsher regime. And I don't know that we'll be able to, because we're going to see a lot more resistance from China. After all, what Trump did potentially on his own without even consulting with his military advisors in terms of saying that he was going to suspend the joint exercises, which he just called war games, was basically giving North Korea and China a tremendous, tremendous carrot.